See, this is actually great because your bold beginning as a true self, an authentic person, and get access to your own power generating system. You don't need anything external. You
No.
have everything you need.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are exhausted.
Yeah. And I think I keep coming to pace as well.
Yes.
Right. The pace of it so often doesn't invite the moment of, even though it doesn't take long, right? You can all just take one really full breath right now where you just like breathe into your back and your sides, your belly. And that was what? I don't know, 20 seconds at most? 15? I have no idea, right? It didn't take long, but yet we feel like we don't even have the opportunity for that. And yet I would say that's the most. So in addition to having a really lengthy morning routine, whenever I find that I'm getting not just nervous, but also even in this conversation, there were a couple of moments where I feel like my mind has tried to be, okay, let's think about the right answer, or let's frame this a certain way, and gone a little bit into that. And then whenever that happens, I'm just sending a breath down and trying to just feel like, oh, right, I'm three-dimensional when I breathe. And that sort of coming back to ground, coming back to centeredness, I think that's a micro practice that everyone can do. Just do 3 of those in the course of your day and notice if there's any shift.
Exactly. That's very transformative.
Yeah.
Truly transformative. Do we have time?
Mm-hmm. We do.
I love that. I'm enjoying this conversation so much, Julie. You work with kids too.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously you work with Broadway veterans, you work with adults and actors, and totally 2 different worlds. What big difference you noticed from working with children versus working with adults?
Yeah. I'm very struck. So I work at the public theater, and through that, for the last 7 years, I've worked with elementary school kids in Hunts Point in the South Bronx, which is one of the poorest neighborhoods in America. And it's been so interesting over those 7 years. And I've also worked with, privileged teens as well, right? So it's not just, and unprivileged teens as well, but there's something about this group of young people. So they're 4th through 6th grade, 10 to 12. And watching also how, because of the pandemic, the shifts. And so I am so aware that they were the muted generation, literally put on mute on Zoom for schooling. And the kids I work with, many of them are growing up in 1-bedroom apartments or very small apartments where they don't have their own private space. And what is it? I mean, talking about voice, what is it like for a child not to be given the freedom to find their own voice? And I think also watching how standardized testing squashes their voice and their creativity. And so the beauty of programs like this one, where these kids work on Shakespeare, and any program that in whatever medium encourages students to trust that they have something worth saying or sharing, and to put that into the world, I just think is vitally important. And that the layer of self-judgment and the lack of play because of what being online always and the way bullying has moved. I feel like, and again, this is based in the city, and I think it's probably different in different places, but the ability to play and be silly and those things we call kid-like attributes, I think it's getting squashed. I wonder if it's getting squashed younger and younger and younger because of the pressure to appear certain ways and the pressure to the lack of desire to be heard by the world around them.
By the kids?
Well, I don't know. I think it becomes systemic, right? If you're not given a voice in school, if you don't have room at home, then you stop. I wonder if sometimes you either stop trusting that you have one, or you start acting out in ways to make it heard. But that's also rebellion against something. So I am, as hard as it is for myself to find my own truth we were talking about, that own inner true voice, and then to express that on the outside of me to others, I think the ability to know how to do that at this younger age, I'm concerned about that, and feel like any program that is giving young people a voice right now is so vitally important. Not a platform. They've got platforms, right? So that's my concern. My beautiful thing is, so with these kids working on Shakespeare, he's on no pedestal. He's on absolutely no pedestal. He's just a writer. And the name of the program, they call it is Shakespeare. So they're like, yeah, I'm here for Shakespeare. And they talk about him like he's a pal. They'll also sometimes be like, this is really poorly written. I think it should be a has, not a have here. He did this wrong. And they're also used to not understanding 100% of words, so it doesn't make them fearful about not knowing a word, but they'll just like jump in and try to grapple with it. And so that fearlessness with Shakespeare and with acting in that way, and particularly with somebody who I hope we're past this point, but I fear we're not totally past this point, where a purist would be like, well, it's not for them, right? This is an entirely Black and brown community. And what does it mean to be like, no, this is our language and this is our way of communicating, and we're not afraid of this, and we're just going to jump in, and it is ours, and it is not, I'm not worried that I'll get it wrong, is so refreshing. Because I just started rehearsals for a Shakespeare play with grown-up professionals. And the amount of fear in that room about like the amount of people who very openly shared their feelings of being like imposter syndrome. Yes. And no kid is being like, well, I've got imposter syndrome at Shakespeare, and like, really, I'm not so sure. So that's a concern and a highlight.
Well, that's the whole point, right? Of becoming childlike.
Yeah.
All the things that we develop, we talked about that earlier, that as adults, children don't have that.
Yeah.
Children don't have that. What is the specific thing that these kids have taught you? About yourself, or about life, or about voice even?
I think the lesson is, and I'm still trying to trust it, that it is not what I'm offering so much as my presence that makes the difference. right? Because I will, like, I'm a people pleaser, and I'm an Enneagram 2, and I'm like, I want to be of service. That's my life. I want to be needed. And I believe very much in empowering people through language, and I want to offer so much to them. And I think to varying degrees it lands with certain of them, but the ones who have confided in me, right? The ones who I have known that have been important to them, and a steadiness to them in a hard time. And some of these kids have gone through such hard times. I don't think it's because I said something smart, or I did a really cool exercise, or right? So much of that is just, I was there, and I was present, and I breathed, and I listened, and they knew that meant I believed in them. Mm-hmm. And that is, such some part of me knows that it's not my doing, but my being. That is the important thing. And that is a conditioning that I'm so actively trying to work through still. So, and showing up however I am, right? Because it's very easy, especially with them, to be like, oh my gosh, they're exhausted from a long school day, and I've just got to like show up with all this energy and try to just like pump it into them. And I'm sure I've done that to you when you were in my class as well, right? There is I'm just going to like pump energy at you to get you excited about something. And maybe that's not always necessary. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's inspiring, but I think it's Michael Chekhov technique in acting that talks about like radiating energy, and how like certain people like put all their energy coming at you, and then others are just like, come to me. And I think that the more I can practice the like, I'm here and I'm present, and if you want to come to me, you can, that beingness, that presence, I think is the greatest thing I can offer them. Because it really doesn't matter if they, like 99% of them will not become actors, right? This is about giving them opportunities to play and be heard and grapple with language.
What made you choose voice as your niche?
Oh, it chose me.
It chose you?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I have always followed, not always. Okay, so I went to Skidmore College, which is an amazing liberal arts school in Saratoga Springs, New York. Just like idyllic campus, and we were encouraged there to be theater makers in all capacities of it. We weren't allowed to specialize in anything. And we were encouraged to make our own opportunities. And so, and I don't know if you know the City Company. They just disbanded, but it's Anne Bogart's theater company. Yeah. So City Company trained there every summer. And one of our teachers, Will Bond, was part of the company. He spent the school year teaching and the summer with the City Company, and they performed at BAM and they performed internationally. And I was sort of like, that's what I want. I want to have a theater company and I want to teach. And I came to New York and started a little theater company with my friends, which still exists. And
production
No.11 Productions. Yeah. And so started the little theater company, just like rehearsing in apartments at night and doing fringe festivals, sort of a beginning. And I got a day job, and I went to literally one audition in the city and went, not for me.
No way.
Yeah, one audition did it. And I was like, no, I don't have a thick enough skin and a sense of strength in myself to do this. Being wanted and needed is too too strong a need in me. I don't have, it's not for me. So I act with my theater company, and that was enough.
Okay.
And then I'm a few years later wanting to leave the day job, and like, okay, well, the dream was have my theater company and teach. So what would I teach? And all my life, I've been told I had a good voice. And I really loved my voice and speech classes in college. So I was like, okay, I guess it's voice and speech. But I didn't know what that meant. I'd only been exposed to Linklater training and one teacher. So I went to the Linklater Center in New York, took a few classes there, and then decided it was not for me. And then my friend who runs my theater company with me, Ryan, he was working on Matilda on Broadway at the time. And so he set me up to have lunch at Schnipper's in Times Square with the director of voice on Matilda, Andrew Wade. And I sat with Andrew at Schnipper's, and he put me through the ringer about why one should study voice and why it was important to me. And I did abominably. Ryan and I were talking about this the other day. Like it went so poorly because I didn't know what it meant. I just had this hunch. And I felt like there was freedom in there was something about the voice of others and what that revealed that was interesting to me, but that's sort of all I had. So he said, okay, well, take a year and learn phonetics and anatomy and like a few other things, and then write me a letter as to why one should study voice. And so I went on a quest. Well, first I felt devastated. First I felt like there's no hope. Everything's like crushed. I remember, what's it called? The Enterprise, that boat that's over by Times Square on the water. It's like a big boat that's, I can't remember its name. The Intrepid. But there's like a...
Times Square?
Yeah, well, it's all the way on the water. It's on the west side. It's the Intrepid. Okay. There's that boat, and there's like a little pier. And I just remember going to that pier and sobbing because I was like, there's no hope. I've failed this. I have no direction. I don't know what I'm doing. And then after that moment, ended up starting to take just a variety of interesting classes.
Any particular places?
HB Studios had, I didn't find phonetics specifically, but that's where I got introduced to Knight Thompson speech work, which I am a big advocate of and ended up getting certified in that as well. And it's a fantastic way of approaching speech. And I started taking Alexander technique because I couldn't find a way to do anatomy. So Alexander technique was hugely important. I started doing yoga, and I started doing I don't sing, unlike you, but I started taking some singing lessons just to like notice what is happening. And then maybe a year and a half later, I wrote Andrew a letter of what I had found on my journey, on my quest. I called that whole time that I was on my voice journey. My voice journey. And then I also applied to, there are a few programs where you can get a master's in voice. And I chose to apply to the one in England, so the Royal Central School of Speech and Drama. So I applied there and I got in. And then Andrew got back in touch with me and he said, well, if you don't go, I'll train you instead. So I said, hell yeah, right? And so he completely took me under his wing. It's been 11 or 12 years now, and I work with him he's the head of voice of the Public Theater as well, and he's my mentor, my colleague, and my friend. And he put me to work threw me in the deep end, and I started working on Matilda. So they were doing the Matilda the Musical tour, the national tour at the time. And that was my first. And then Alethea Phillips at Stella Adler took me on there to start doing warm-ups, and then began teaching there, which is how we met.
Yes.
But it wasn't
your childhood.
No, I knew theater. Like theater was the thing. I knew doing theater was, but it never was I want to do that specifically. Yeah.
It was a beautiful journey.
Yeah. And so now as I find myself being like, oh, should I stay in New York? Where should we go? Where should we move to? Should we not move? Should we just trying to be, oh yes, but the best things in my life have come by staying open, staying curious, and then suddenly a path emerges.
Yes, stay open, curious. What do you think makes a voice legendary?
Well, who do you think are legendary voices? I know the voices that I'm drawn to are voices that are so full of vibration, a really resonant voice. Thinking like James Earl Jones or John Douglas Thompson, right? Like there are these voices that you're just like, ooh, let me just, Michelle Obama, right? Like there's just certain voices that just, there's something, and I think that probably plays on different people in different ways.
Right.
But there is like almost like a sensory thing that just, I don't know, Michelle Obama can say anything and I will cry. And I don't know what it is about her, but there's just like it's something to do with the quality of her voice and her openness and how those things dance together. Right. And I think it is allowing yourself to play the entirety of your voice and share your fullness through the fullness of your instrument. I would like to believe that is.
Share your fullness. What do you mean by share your fullness? How do we know we are sharing our fullness?
I think you know, right? You know when you're holding back on something, right?
That's true.
I think it's the gesture I feel is like, it's like if you could just fall back and almost like dissolve, and the thing would still be there, and that would be everything that was ever there. It's a weird image, but nothing held back. We get to choose how much, whether it's our own words or scripted words, we can conceal sometimes within that. And sometimes we do a really passable job, right? Mm-hmm. But that bravery to, so this past weekend I was at the beach in New Jersey, and the waves were amazing, and they were just like so big, and playing in them. And my sister was in the waves too with me, which we haven't done since we were teenagers, right? And there's this moment where when I was diving, I kept doing it because it was so powerful, but just like diving into a wave, like right below the breaking point, mm-hmm. and then feeling this like surge of energy going through me, and knowing that I was holding nothing back, right? Like that it could not, everything was passing through me. All of that, and you have no other choice in the ocean, right? You could resist, but ultimately the water, like that, nothing I can do is going to stop that wave.
Yes.
And I wonder if there's something similar of everything, every part of me, the entirety of my being, the entirety of this breath, the entirety of everything that is present in this moment is coming through, and I am offering no resistance to it. So it just comes through. And it doesn't have to be your own words. It can be other words. I think poetry can sometimes really help us find that. That's why I use it quite a lot. But holding nothing back. And it doesn't mean it has to be big, right? You could actually be quite small in vocally. It's not I don't think it's a scale so much as an openness.
That was a beautiful metaphor, actually, to explain it. How do you guide your student to be technically correct and truly expressive? So what's actually the difference between technically correct and truly expressive?
Yeah.
Or is there any difference at all?
Well, I question correct because in some way, whatever someone is doing has gotten them this far in life, right? So it has, even if somebody only is breathing in the top of the chest and has a really tight jaw, that may have been what they needed to make it to this moment, to survive, right? I think.
Yes.
I think to me, it's less about correct and it's more, we can just sum up this whole interview into expansion, right? Is just making sure the person remembers they have all the keys on the piano. I think sometimes we just play one scale and we play that scale a lot. And so I would say that what I offer, and I will say that I'm a coach more than I teach. So I think they serve slightly different functions. But regardless, I think my viewpoint is that if you can remember, oh, whoa, I've got this entire piano to play and the pedals and the black keys and I've got this whole thing. And if I want to like open up the top and pluck the strings, I could even do that, right? I would say that it's opening out, it's expanding into, right, all of these things. And so then the technical part is just exploring what is it like to have that much resonance and resonate in different places, or to explore and what is the capacity of my breath and how can that stamina support bigger emotions or longer phrases or larger spaces. How can playing with pitch and how you can actually over time create more variety in there. I can play more music, more patterns of how I might say something. To me, I think it's more than correct. It's just a reminder, a physical embodiment of an experiential moment of, oh, right, this is all me. This is all my quote voice. All of this, even when it don't sound good, right? This is still me. And then to the second half of your question, I think it's just something film has sort of implanted in us. But we can sometimes, I think, mistake authenticity with a tightening in around the larynx. So actually, Nate sort of dropping into this place might feel like it's really authentic and really vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we can sometimes play in that place, but what I'm actually doing is slightly constricting my vocal folds. Not to say that's bad, nothing's bad, but is there a way, what is offered up by also staying open, also allowing the vocal folds to stay open or allowing the breath to be deep as another option? Because I think sometimes we can default into comfort zone or what we've seen.
Right. Very well explained. Very well explained. I will ask you one more question. What do you think is the biggest misconception about voice work in theater is?
that it is, I think there are two. One is that it is detached from the creative process. And I think that's very much based on where people train. I worked with 5 understudies today.
Right.
And one of the 5 came in, 4 of them came in and were like, okay, here's my script. Let's get into the language. And got that voice and text is about, like, voice and text go together, at least in my, the last one came in and thought, okay, so voice wise, not acting wise, but voice wise. And I'll get that occasionally, that somebody feels like it's not the acting. But I would say that that's like telling a dancer that how they move their legs is not dance. So I think the disconnection between acting and the creative part versus how the voice sounds. And it doesn't have to just be for actors, right? It can also be for I've worked with professors, I've worked with business people who have to deliver speeches, right? And if the voice and how you sound is separate from what you're sharing with it,
Yes.
then I think that's going to be difficult to get someone to care and want to integrate it in a way that is not prohibitive or making rules or separating it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then I would say the second obstacle is, I don't know if you said obstacle, but feels like an obstacle sometimes in my work, is
What is an obstacle too?
viewing voice work as something that is a Band-Aid you put on later. So that, oh, somebody has a voice issue, fix it. Versus helping someone construct a role in a way that they can do it 8 times a week.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes, well, the medical profession is really going to help, but you can come in and, right? I don't think actors should be in a situation where they don't have a sustainable way to do something. And I would say that I've worked with a lot of actors in some really weird things. So this one actress who had to roar like a lion, right? Like I've done some very strange, or somebody who had to have an asthma attack on stage. And I love that sort of problem solving because it's fun. It's getting to play with the voice and see what's possible. But I dislike it when it's, oh no, we actually wore this human out and now make it so they can get through. It doesn't feel like it's respectful to the craft. And I think I'm saddened by how many performers rely on steroids to get them through, rely on, well, I can't actually do 8 shows a week. Or, right, we should be helping people build a show that they can do in a healthy, sustainable, and creative way. It shouldn't be, here's the creative way or the healthy way. I think those are the same.
Without hurting your instrument.
Yeah. Right, because we would never say like, play your cello like you'll never be able to play it again, right?
Break all the chords.
Yeah. Break your wrist while you play that cello, right? Or whatever, yeah. And yet I think with performers, and I think so many shows, are, particularly musicals, are so unbelievably demanding in so many different ways. I think there's I think we can be supporting performers better.
Very well said. Thank you for mentioning that. Thank you. Julie, this was absolute pleasure. I really enjoyed speaking with you, and thank you for coming on this show and sharing all this wisdom and instructions.
My absolute pleasure, Sheida.
Thank you. So for whoever wants to speak with you and work with you, although they might not be actors, they can find you on your social media and your website, which I will include in the caption.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. I also want to, I'll put it here, anyone who's a listener in New York, maybe I'll put something on social media about it, but I want to organize a breath ride. So a day where whoever wants to will ride the subway from one end to the other and then back again, and we'll just breathe consciously on the subway. I want to start a little revolution of, can we be present and aware while
the field?
Yeah, in the field, right? It's so easy to be like, let's go on a little retreat and do breath work, but I want to be like, yeah. So feel free to check my social media. I'll actually be good about putting offerings up on there. But yeah, I am interested in how can we, I think breath can cause a little revolution, and I want to have little experiments for anyone who'd like to join and is curious.
That is such an interesting and lovely thing to do. Hopefully I get to join.
Please.
Yes, I will put your social media in the caption, and obviously your website and everything. Such a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Sheida.